folks, because we're experiencing some gremlins this morning. Leave it to Comcast Internet to screw up a good day. 479-5551, 479-5551 is the Williamson Brothers Marine Talk and Text line. Twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton, YouTube.com/Miller and Moulton. Seth Everett to join us in about 25 minutes. David and I spent the entire commercial break going back to 1988 and the eat another donut, you fat pig.
Because we're guessing that most of you don't know what we are referencing. So when Mark touched upon that in Today Was the Day When a few moments ago, that we're guessing that most of you don't know the reference.
And or even, the reference or remember any part of it. But it was Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And
this is hockey, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Bruins and the New Jersey Devils. This is the Devils' first ever trip to the playoffs. 4 years earlier, Wayne Gretzky had referred to them as a, quote, Mickey Mouse organization.
And the Devils just get pummeled by the Bruins. And as they're going off of the ice, Jim Schoenfield, the head coach of the Devils, is going after Don Koharski, the referee. And to the video, it appears that Schoenfeld didn't bump Koharski, but Koharski fell. And Koharski gets up. Stan Fischler, who is a legendary hockey writer, I've had the pleasure of interviewing and meeting on several different occasions because he spent a lot of time in Southwest Florida in the early Blades years, had the back and forth words as, "Oh, you're gone now. You're gone. You won't coach another." When Schoenfield shoots back, "You fell and you know it. You know you fell. I didn't touch you." Koharski, "You're gone. You're gone. And I hope it's on tape." That's when Schoenfield delivers, "Good, because you fell, you fat pig. Have another donut." Schoenfeld gets suspended for Game 4. Game 4 was to be played on Mother's Day.
In New Jersey.
That is when Judge John A. Conte calls Lou Lamoriello. Lamoriello, the GM of the Devils, calls Conte. He's a judge. Trying to get a temporary restraining order against the NHL that would allow Schoenfeld to coach that night's game.
Remember, it's Sunday. It's
Mother's Day. Conte, who is a Devils fan who often housed the team's young players, put the Devils in touch with New Jersey Superior Court judge on a call.
Imagine that phone call. He's probably sitting at home at Mother's Day dinner.
Right, with his wife and his family, and everybody's over, and it's another judge calling him on Mother's Day. "Can you talk to Lou Lamoriello from the New Jersey Devils?"
Who's on the phone? It's Lou Lamoriello.
Who the hell is Lou Lamoriello, is what the judge said.
Right, we're going to the game in a few hours. What are you talking about?
So, as it said, Lou was not a big figure in the league, because now he's a tremendous figure, well-known, one of the best executives in the sport. Hall of Fame. If he's not, he should be. So, the judge, on Mother's Day, agrees to hear the case at his apartment. And help me out, David, it's in Cliffside Park. Give me some reference if you know it. And I mean, you're a Jersey guy, but Jersey's a big state. So,
Cliffside Park's within 20 or so minutes of the arena. Half hour tops.
Because it's in Bergen County, so obviously.
And this is the other thing you got to realize. Imagine if you're the NHL and this is happening. I mean, you think, by the way, what Wayne Gretzky said 5 years earlier is true. You're looking at the Devils as a Mickey Mouse organization, and now they are taking you into a court proceeding on Mother's Day evening, trying to get a temporary injunction so their coach can play.
But I don't believe the NHL even knows that they're doing this without the NHL knowing. I mean, the NHL isn't there. They're getting the restraining order against the NHL. They're showing their case. So Lou drives, Conte says, who recalls going with attorney Patrick Gilmartin. His wife and one of his daughters had typed up all the papers. The Devils announce at 7:20. Face-off is 7:45. They announce at 7:20 that they have the injunction. So the referee, both linesmen, and the backup referee refuse to take the ice.
Right.
There's a sellout crowd.
Correct.
And
Game
remember,
4,
we're in
Eastern
the
Conference Finals.
we're in the late 80s. There's no internet, and we're not walking around with cell phones. Not everybody. I mean, Lou might have a big one in his pocket, but that's about it at this point. The game was played by scab officials.
They literally had to find 3 officials. They wore what looked like glorified ponchos, bright ponchos, so that you could tell that they were the officials, because the NHL wouldn't allow them to wear official striped jerseys. So they were out there with like sweatpants and bright ponchos, and they were the officials.
And the Devils would go on to win the game 3-1. They would
end the series at 2.
They would end up suspending Schoenfeld for Game 5. Lou Lamoriello would go behind the bench. The Bruins destroy the Devils 7-1, and would end up winning. The Bruins would end up winning in 7. That was, I believe, the infamous Fog game against the Oilers in the Cup Finals, right? Is that the same year as the Cup Finals?
Correct. Game 1 would be the Fog game in Boston. Peter Klima, I think 3 overtimes.
You are right there with Klima. But that's the backstory on Eat Another Donut, You Fat Pig.
Right. So that if you know what we're talking about, if we ever mention Don Koharski, Jim Schoenfeld, have another donut, that's where it's coming from. All right. Miller and Moulton. Glad we got that out of the way. We're taking a lot of heat with our poll question for the coaches that we don't have on the list. Former Miracle GM. He's now back in Jacksonville. All right. And they're now the Mighty Muscles. Chris Peters giving us a hard time. Doesn't like just about anybody we have on the damn list.
But, Chris, here's all I'll say to you. If you're going to rip us to pieces, come up with one name.
Well, he did. Billy Donovan.
Oh, that's his name?
He thinks Billy Donovan should be on the list. And I will say it is the coach that has been thrown at us the most as to who we think we are missing on the list. We came up with this poll question yesterday off air, and we actually remembered it, which we usually forget. And so we're using it today. If, we think it's pretty obvious that, a Mount Rushmore of Florida coaching, that 3/4 of it is inarguable. Spurrier, Bowden, and Shula. But who would the 4th be? And there are a lot of viable candidates. Now, we threw out, here's our choices for the 4th. And we threw out Howard Schnellenberger, Jimmy Johnson, 2 former Miami Hurricane coaches. Obviously, Jimmy then had a 4-year run with the Dolphins, which they went to the playoffs 3 times. We had Pat Riley, who, remember, when the Heat won their first title, Riley was their head coach. And I know that Spoelstra's been the head coach now for around a decade, but Riley, to me, the Heat are not a viable NBA franchise until Pat Riley came down. And he's the one that drafted Wade, and he acquired Shaq, and then he was the one that ultimately coached them to their first title. And I don't think that the 3 of them, LeBron, Bosh, and Wade, get together unless Riley's running the franchise, quite frankly. I don't.
Someone did, but is it the executive or the coach? I get your point. My vote would be between Schellenberger and Jimmy Johnson on this. Even if Donovan was, everybody else that is mentioned. And I would probably lean Schellenberger.
And the 4th person we put on, which we knew would elicit quite the response, was Urban Meyer. But he did win 2 national championships. I mean, Jimmy Johnson won 2 at Miami. Well, Urban won 2 at Florida. Now, Billy Donovan did win 2. They're in basketball. People are saying he should be on the list. And we've had Gruden and Dungy mentioned. We get it. But, our 4 were Schnellenberger, Jimmy Johnson, Pat Riley, Urban Meyer, and Jimmy Johnson winning the vote with around 40%. Not a majority, but a plurality right now. But everybody's getting a nice, healthy percentage of votes, though. They really are. I mean, this is a very divided poll question. Go to that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, and vote. We had a discussion today about retired numbers and whether or not it's okay, because the Dolphins unveiled yesterday Tua would be number 1. Now, Tua, Marino, the Dolphins, there was never any discussion that Tua would be number 13. for the obvious reason, right? But the sports media was talking about it because, let's face it, that's what we do. We create trouble sometimes where there is none. And it got us into a little bit of discussion about retired numbers and is it okay if you unretire a number? Should we be retiring so many numbers? What do you do if you're Marino? If Tua had actually asked, it kind of puts Dan in a tough spot. Mark, you know me. I'd have no problem saying no. You came up to me saying, hey, I've worn 13 my whole life, this, that, and the other thing. I look right at you and go, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. You're not wearing it for the Dolphins.
Right. Look, if it means that much to Marino, we don't know. I would think it would mean everything to a player.
But then again, there are many a player in which they're like, I would love to see my number back in circulation. Love to have people talking about me and my career and all that. But,
well, that's the other thing, and it's one of the things I love about hockey, David, is that it's not ever done by the player or really the coach or the GM. You want to know who doesn't let players wear certain numbers? The head trainer. Somebody comes in and, I want this number, and you just got rid of a guy or a guy retired that had worn that number for a few years, and the trainer will look right at him and go, I don't know what to tell you. We don't have it. Well, yeah, you had it. I don't know what to tell you. You don't have it. I don't think you're good enough to wear that number, quite frankly. Michigan did this for years. The University of Michigan, Anthony Carter came in and wore number 1. And Anthony Carter was a stud. And it seemed that every big receiver that they recruited after that for 15 years would come in and get number 1. And it was almost like a badge of honor. You were recruited. You were at a high enough level. I think you can wear AC's number. Not saying you're AC, but I think you have a shot to be. So I'll let you wear that number. And that's kind of the debate, David. Are you honoring them more by letting someone wear their number or by hanging it in the rafters? And I think there are arguments to both sides. I like the retired jersey, but spent many years as a marketing guy for hockey organizations, and I like to sell tickets.
Texas A&M has the famed number 12 for the 12th man, and it's usually a walk-on player who ends up making the team and is usually a big special teams contributor. And they put that player in number 12. LSU is big on the number 18. That's the jersey that if it gets handed down to you, they are saying to you, hey, you're a special guy. You're not the greatest player on the team, but you're a special guy if you get number 18. And sometimes you can start in another number, and by the time you end your career there, they give you said number. So some of the things that we have kicked around today, but we've had a lot of fun with the coaches.
We definitely have.
And Mark, even, you're getting very dangerous here. You may want to try to go this route tomorrow, only go locally.
Well, I just was having fun because Dave Dorsey, who will always respond to our tweets, and I don't know if Dave turns the show on or not. He's been writing for the news press forever and has covered sports in this market for, my God, a couple generations. And I just, I said Sam, Bill, and Andy, and he said Andy with a question mark, and I went Enfield, and of course he just completely shot that down. And I get it. If you've covered high school sports and you've lived here, that's probably a slap in the face to coaches that have done it for a long time. But there's only one coach that got this market on national television for a week. And I don't mean on the sports stations. I mean on the Today Show and Good Morning America and all of those things. So I'm going to start and end with Andy and Sam and Coach Kramer, and then you guys can all figure out who the fourth is.
In fact, The Athletic yesterday came out with a top 25 hires in college basketball for the last, I think it was 15 years. So they just missed, I think, like Bill Self getting hired at Kansas. And I was a little surprised that Andy didn't make the list just because, and maybe it's locality bias, but I'm like, wow, not a lot of coaches taking a 15 seed to the Sweet 16. I would think that, that's a pretty good hire. We're talking 25 best hires. Are you sure that's not one of the 25 best hires in the sport in the last 15 years? I don't know. It seemed pretty good to me. Don't get me wrong. I love the Wake Forest Steve Forbes hire. I think it's going to be fantastic. It's not Andy Enfield to FGCU. That one worked out okay.
No doubt there. There was a decent amount of player signings yesterday in the NFL. I mean, a lot of little signings
It's about damn time.
Well,
I'm not lashing out at you.
I don't know why that made you angry, but
because I think first off, some teams have some money, and they had it entering the draft. And remember, Mark, we're now a week and a half removed from the draft. I don't know why some of these signings didn't take place last week. Because I think there's some good players available. And I'm not talking the Clownies and the Everson Griffins. I just think there's like Eric Reed is available. Take a look at what Eric Reed has done since Carolina gave him a lifeline to bring him back into the league. Eric Reed's been terrific. Terrific. And there are teams out there that need a safety. Why are you not signing Eric Reed? I mean, aren't we past this whole anthem thing? He doesn't even do it, by the way, anymore. I mean, come on now.
Thought the other thing that was interesting from a football standpoint is that the Jags said they're all in with Fournette for this year. After he's bashed them, they spent a month trying to trade him. But yesterday, or I guess Friday, everything got worked out, David. And they let people know in a press conference that they're moving forward. Even though Fournette publicly lobbied for Cam Newton to play for the team tried to trade him to anybody that would listen. And because they couldn't get what they felt they wanted for Fournette, they're going to keep him. Interesting to see how this is going to go for the Jags. David, Jags picking the top 5 next year?
Oh, yeah.
Jags or Jets? Which roster's better?
Wow. Oh, man. I think Jets roster's better. Close, but I think Jets roster is definitely better.
Take Bell over Fournette. I would too.
Well,
I think their defense is better because the Jags have gutted theirs.
Yeah, they got a lot of young guys now playing. It may be pretty good in a hurry here, but
when Ngakou's gone and they've already, they traded the corner last year, so yeah, the Jets are trying to build. I don't know if they're doing it right, and the Jags are tearing it down.
Yeah, I think Carolina and Jacksonville. It's ironic, those two teams, because they came into the league together. I think Carolina and Jacksonville are competing right now for the first overall pick. I didn't understand the Teddy Bridgewater signing because I thought to myself, this may help you win a game or two too many. This may cost you Trevor Lawrence. I don't know why you're doing this. If you're trying to lose, and I think they are, then lose.
And they paid all that money and gave all that time to McCaffrey when they have a roster that doesn't support him right now. And he touches the ball so many damn times.
Well, that'll be the big issue there. By the time they get good, have they worn him out? Or will he still have a couple of big years in him for when they're ready to win? 479-5551 is our number. 479-5551. And as we head to break and bring Seth Everett on the show on the other side, Mark, where's Cam going to end up? We're talking about unsigned players. Where is Cam Newton's landing spot?
Well, David, you said something a while back that with every day appears to be a smarter statement. Cam's waiting for the first quarterback to get hurt because Cam in his camp came out in the last week and basically said Cam has zero interest in being a backup. Right. So that eliminates you from most every job that's out there. Pittsburgh's not going to touch you. We all know the list. Chicago's already got Foles. So where is there? Yeah, but I'm not. They could have got Cam, but they've already got what they got. So where? San Diego doesn't seem to want him. Would Vegas consider it if?
No, they've got Carr and Mariota. No. And they gave Mariota a decent buck.
Right.
No, not an option. To me, first off, you have to look at the really bad backup scenarios. And I think Seattle's one, and I think the Rams are another.
Well, Pittsburgh's one if Ben goes down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. What quarterback goes down? Because that seems to be the only way Cam's going to get a shot at starting.
But it's obvious Cam is not going to put on the hat and carry a clipboard. Should he sign a one-year deal and pick a place and just go there? Should he go to Seattle? Should he go to Pittsburgh? Back up two guys who are likely Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Teams that have a chance to win, where if you get to play, you'll be playing meaningful games.
And, I've said all along, when it came to Andy Dalton, Pittsburgh needed to go after him because they would have been a playoff team a year ago with Andy Dalton as their backup. Well, I sure as hell am going to say the same thing about Cam Newton. That's, to me, the best destination for a backup quarterback right now, but Cam doesn't want to be a backup.
And so when you talk unsigned players, and where does Cam Newton end up? Miller and Moulton. Seth Everett next on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Well, I want to let everybody know I've done it. I jumped in the deep end at 8 o'clock this morning. I put the TV on ESPN, and SportsCenter was on. So I just started going up the ESPN thing. That pathetic morning show, whatever they had on the U. And then on ESPN, what channel am I on here? I think I'm on their backup ESPN 2. Oh, no, I'm on ESPN 2. I've got it on. I am watching the Doosan Bears at the LG Twins.
Unbelievable. You're doing this for Seth, aren't you?
Doosan up 5-2, top of 9. So I don't even know if this interview will make the bottom make the game.
He's also the #1 PanOptic surgeon in the state of Florida. PanOptic, specially designed to help patients see 20/20 at distances that are near, far, and even in between. Experience the freedom of living without glasses for distance driving, computers, and reading. With PanOptics, you'll experience a clear advantage that you didn't know was possible. See your future in 2020. Find out if you are a candidate for PanOptics.
And Sean, I have a soft spot for Don Koharski because Don ended up being a supervisor of officials, and I got to know Don really well. He's a really nice guy and gave me a pretty cool autograph, although it was like kind of a printed one, that he had a picture of, it was Lindros and Gretzky, and he was dropping the puck. And the way he always signed it is sometimes the only thing that stands between greatness is you, or something along those lines. And I always thought that was a cool picture. But Don was a really nice guy. He really and truly, and this is the hard thing with the hockey officials, is that I got to know all of these guys over the years, and you quit hating them when you know them. It's a lot easier to bash a guy you don't know. No, Sean, you're right. I don't think he was as bad as the job is. You don't ref that long in the league and suck at your job. That's all I'm trying to say. You don't like Don Koharski. It's a pretty difficult job. They were only doing it with one.
Yeah, back in the day.
With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water. 94.1 Fort Myers.
Let me know when we're a minute out, please.
Got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples, on the phone. Okay. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Cortec flooring. Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90 colors of Cortec in stock, ready to go, pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up.
I don't care. I'll just call him now.
Warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Cortec that you have. You also have other Cortec products as well.
We also carry the Cortec stone product. Looks like tile, looks like...
Good morning.
Morning.
So you get the softness.
Hello.
Hello, you can hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. How are you?
But hold on. Do you have the other number? Because we've been in quarantine for 7 weeks, and it doesn't sound good on my cell phone.
All right, hang on. I think I do, Seth. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. Let me double check. All right. No, don't give it because too many people can hear it. Let me see if I...
You ready?
No, I can't do it, Seth, because it's over Twitch and people will hear it. Hang on. Now go. Seth, you there?
Call us today for a free inspection.
Seth. Seth? Go ahead, give me the number.
License number CCC 1326954.
What was the zip the area code again?
Why would someone take a chance on purchasing a frameless shower door from a big
Gotcha, calling you right now.
or an online discounter of an obscure brand, and then try and find a licensed, qualified installer to put it in, when you can deal directly with a local, family-owned business that consults, measures, manufactures, and installs their own award-winning brand of shower doors. My Shower Door is a family-owned and operated business and has the highest ratings on the Angie's List.
Good morning.
There we go.
Wanna see
Much
more?
better.
Why?
Go to My Shower Door.
Why isn't the radio station calling?
Because the way
Or do
we
I
do
not
it now
wanna
with
know?
Twitch and David and I through this Ring Central, I'm doing David's audio, so it's easier in the quarantine for me to do it.
Ooh, so interesting.
Here we go.
It's 28 minutes past 8 o'clock. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Seth Everett, kind enough to join us once again. You can follow Seth on Twitter at Seth_Everett. He of the two tremendous podcasts, one sports-oriented. That's why it's called Sports with Friends. The other, not sports-oriented, entertainment-based, called Hall of Justice. Seth, how are you and the family this week?
Oh, good morning, guys. It's good to see you and hear you. I've been a loyal viewer. I love your Twitch stream because your commercial breaks are so much better than your show, and your show doesn't suck.
Seth, since there is no sports really to talk about, and I will get to baseball. I put Korean baseball on just to annoy David this morning.
And Seth, and
you
I
really?
chastised him for it. I can't believe he did it.
Oh, my favorite modern baseball name plays for one of the Korean teams. And he's a big joke that we had in the New York Mets booth in 2014 because he pitched for San Diego. Because I didn't know how to say his name without singing it. It was Odrisamer de Espagne. And he was a dude that pitched for the Padres, and now he's in the Korean League, and we never knew what happened to him. And we were just like, we wanted him to get back to the big leagues just so I would sing his name. And now he's in the Korean League. So I texted Boog Shambi, and I said, when you say his name, you have to say Odrisamer de Espagne.
I
That's
like
as
it.
much Korean baseball as I know.
I like it. Seth, how long have you been a Devils fan?
Since the minute they moved. My story is, I was I was born in Brooklyn, and we moved to New Jersey, and the deal was I was 8, and I had to corral my 5-year-old sister and keep her out of the way of the moving company when we moved to New Jersey, and the reward at the end of the day would be Carvel ice cream. And at this Carvel, there was a newspaper that was the first time I'd ever seen a newspaper that wasn't the New York Post. And the headline was, today, professional sports comes to New Jersey. New Jersey gets its own team. And the Colorado Rockies hockey team had announced that morning that they were moving to New Jersey. And I voted for the team name because they had a fan vote where you could cut a ballot out of the newspaper and mail it in. And I did. I was 8 years old, and I did it. And my father, God bless him, he's still alive, but God bless him for doing this. He lied to me, and he said it was a really close vote, and that my vote could tip it, and I voted for Devils. So for about 2 years, I thought I named them. And my first ever hockey game is the New Jersey Devils' first game. And
Awesome.
so I've been a fan literally since minute one.
Okay, well, I want to let you know that today is a significant day in New Jersey Devil history. We do it today was a day when every day, and today is the infamous eat another donut, you fat pig.
That's a Sunday night Mother's Day, and I was mad because we had to go out with my mom and my grandmother for Mother's Day, and I was going to miss the beginning of the game. And when I got home, the game was starting, and because it was a big delay, because they had to get replacement officials.
We told the story.
And again, I thought that, oh my God, that was so nice of the Devils and Bruins to wait for Mother's Day to be over. I was 12 and 13. I was so dumbfounded, and I had to wait till the next morning to find out the story.
Well, and we just shared it during the last segment because it is an all-timer of how the whole thing went on.
Have another donut. Yeah.
Right. But to have a fan who was a judge and have Limarillo get a hold of the judge and then get a hold of the Supreme Court all on Mother's Day is really an all-time story. All right, Seth. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, too, I don't know if you are a serious subscriber, but there is now a Prince channel. And I've had it on in the very few trips I make in my car. I'm just wondering if you give your thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down. Are they playing a wide enough collection of music if you are aware that this channel exists?
It's funny that you say that. I don't have Sirius, and I don't go in a car. I have not turned my car on in 6 weeks. I'm a little alarmed. That's going to be this morning.
You should.
You're right. You should, and I haven't. I don't have Sirius Radio. But what I have seen is a lot of Twitter because, I have a lot of Prince followers and I follow a lot of those people back, and they've been putting screen grabs about what they've been listening to. And it sounds like it's all of his hits. It's his hits, and it's fine. I have no complaint. It's not my thing. I don't think I will ever need a Prince streaming anything, whether it's Sirius, Spotify, or anything. And anytime people have tweeted that they've been listening to Little Red Corvette, I say, if you need music, just call me. Don't be shy. I'll send you music. I'll give you what you need because there's so much better stuff out there.
It's channel 30 for those of you who have it, and they want to subscribe. Just
they
let
told
you
a
know.
little bit of a myth in
all.
their press release because in 2005, Prince was interested in doing something with Sirius Radio. But the reality is in 2013, when I was working with them, Sirius reached out to me and wanted to do a permanent channel. And they wanted to put the show that I was doing with Prince, that Prince was producing, they wanted to simulcast it on Sirius. And they wanted these guys in Australia, these guys who do a great Prince podcast called the Peach and Black Podcast, and they were going to handle 12 hours of the overnight because in Australia it's the opposite time zone. And I was going to be in charge of the first 12 hours. And when I met Prince in August of 2013, that's what I wanted to talk about because I thought it was a great business opportunity, and Prince didn't want anything to do with it.
Interesting.
Well,
Why?
Well, artist business. That
He just didn't want to talk shop. He didn't want to talk about the show. He didn't want to talk about the serious thing. He just wanted to talk about the place and the band and, how I think of the fans. Like he wanted a casual conversation. He wanted to get to know me. He didn't want to talk business, and I was all business at that point because I was like, oh my God, if Prince greenlights a Prince channel, I could call my friends at Sirius, and I could easily get that running, and that could be now, it could turn into from a part-time project to a full-time gig. And it wasn't that he didn't want to, he just wasn't interested.
Timing is everything, and that is from a transition to sports. Seth, look, and I know where you've been, and we all understand living in Jersey and being right in the epicenter of what's going on. You have a different perspective, but Seth,
in Denver they think I'm a coward. I got some threats yesterday. I was on the radio in Denver yesterday, and they went off on me, and they said they implored the station to not put me on anymore.
Well, we did have a fan
I live in a different reality.
We did have a listener say when you come on, because we had guests before you and after you that were outside in Florida with birds. You could clearly hear the birds chirping. They just want the birds chirping during your interviews now, so we may try to
you
arrange
want me to go outside? I'll go outside. It's a little chilly today.
But Seth,
it's just chilly.
Look at they've now June 10th seems to be thrown out there, a July 1 start. It's not a reality yet, but it's starting to look like there is a lot of momentum going forward. Do you buy it?
Well,
do you buy it? That's really my question. Do you buy it?
So I asked the same question. I had two old friends on a Twitch show last night that you can go to my Twitch channel and you could see this, and I'm going to take the audio and I'm going to put it on Sports with Friends because it was so good. But Torrey Hunter and Jock Jones, two of my oldest and dearest, they're great. They're bored out of their minds, so we came up with this idea to do a weekly Twitch show. And I asked them pretty much the same thing, but I asked it a little different. And I said, as guys who played, if you were in a Major League Baseball clubhouse in this time, would you trust your teammates to adhere to the quarantine rules. And Torrey Hunter looked me right in the eye and goes, "Are you out of your mind?" He said, "Hell no." And he said, "If you set it up," and now he's in Texas, and he's outside of Dallas. He's not near any epicenter. He's completely safe. And he said, if you put those players together in this time with this current setup, the way we have it now, he said, it's just a matter of when a player tests positive, and it's when that league shuts down. So if you want to start all of it, and he is a guy whose livelihood was from baseball, and he said, you're out of your mind. He said, I don't trust baseball players as far as I could throw them. He says, I know that I would adhere to the quarantine rules, but I wouldn't want to go near a teammate. I'd feel uncomfortable in a locker room because I wouldn't trust that every guy doesn't have something going on the side that nobody knows about. You cannot trust the players.
And Seth, something that Mark and I have talked about a little bit here lately is we think that the two big issues that we see, the first question, which we've thrown out for weeks, is these leagues are going to have to answer this question first before they go forward. What happens when someone tests positive? Because inevitably someone will. But we now also believe that the players' unions in all of these sports are, to me, going to have a very interesting discussion that I'm sure they're having amongst themselves now. What is it that they are absolutely positively going to insist on? I mean, how much testing are they going to demand? What rules are they going to demand? The first stuff that we've heard about has all come from the league, the owners. What is it that they're suggesting? Sure. Seth, if you really think about it, what is it that you believe? You are talking to current and former major league players. Yeah. What is it that you believe they will absolutely insist on before they will agree to play?
Okay, let's address that. Number one, how much security is there? How are they being policed? So are you telling me 750 players, you're going to have somebody on their hallways? Because they call women. That's number one.
Yep.
Number two, the ATM and the food. A lot of players, they want to order their own food. They don't like room service. And they will go out, and if they don't have cash, they will go to cash machines, because that conversation came up, because that was something that I dealt with our babysitter. And I have a system to get cash when I do it, because I use my phone to swipe my card, the Apple Pay, and then I push the buttons with a glove, and then I toss the glove right there. And will players do it? He said no. He said players by habit are dirty. And he said there are guys that don't shower. He goes, we don't talk about it because that's not something it's unseemly. But there are guys that don't shower. There are all different levels of cleanliness. And he said, how are you policing it? He said, because if it's players left to their own volition, Rob Manfred and the league could sit down and whatever edict they want. Unless it can be enforced, it's a bunch of hooey.
And the other thing, Seth, that I've thought of after the fact, particularly with baseball, is managers and bench managers are never much of spring chickens. You got a lot of people that are in this game.
Older guys. Well, now they are because
they're cheating. No, you're right.
But I guess
but you're right. But you still have a whole bunch of, whether they're clubhouse attendants that have been doing this for 35 years. I mean, Seth, yeah. That's a great job. I mean, people don't get it. If you're a clubhouse attendant for a major league team, you worked your ass off to get to that position. You're making a pretty good living, and trust me, your tips at the end of the year are ginormous. These guys have been at it.
It's funny you bring that up, because there's actually two major league teams who have had long-time clubhouse attendants and or visiting clubhouse attendants who have both retired here in the last week. And I have no idea if they're looking at the future this year and going, yeah, I don't want to be a part of it at my age. But it is interesting you bring that up, because it's actually happened in the last week.
Yeah. And I know a lot of those guys, and and official scorers. And there's so many people, and usually what gets you those positions is your experience. That's how those positions are rewarded. And I just think it's too soon. I want it to. I really do. I want a lot of. I would rather us be talking about how weird and unique and cool it is. I do. But I just think it's too soon, and I'm not trying to pin it on the leagues. I admire the leagues for trying. I just think when two players who are just recently out of the game, and these guys are ready, they're all dialed in to their teams, and they still talk to all these guys in their teams, and we got a great Patrick Mahomes story. But the idea that they won't do it because they don't trust their brethren, and he said the union should pay for the security. That's the only way it'll actually get done. He was adamant. He had all these things, and he just said it's too soon.
And to Seth's point, I know he just said because they call girls and people, and I chuckled. I chuckled partially because one of the first things that happened in the UK was a Premier League player, after the team and had all these PSAs about not going out, hired 2 escort girls to his place and got busted. And that's why I laughed, because what Seth said is, I've been on the road. That it's the truest statement ever.
Of course.
So,
of course.
But Seth, what you're bringing up also makes sense.
It's what I miss about quarantine the most. Boy, you wish I was on Twitch now.
But Seth, if you think about it, like we were talking about this on Monday, Florida officially opened up in some way, and the survey could be where people are like, hey, I hope we open up a little bit, but I'm not going to go out to a restaurant. And so you could see where players even could be like, hey, I'm hoping that my state opens up a little bit. Well, are you ready to play? And you could see where the players like, no.
Right. But David, there's a different mentality in that you guys have been much more responsible in your show than the guys in Denver. And the guys in Denver are not irresponsible. It's Mark Schlereth and Mike Evans. And they haven't been irresponsible, but their audience was adamant that what I'm saying is garbage. And that's, everybody's entitled to their opinion. And what I have said to those people is, anybody who thinks I'm an alarmist or a panicker, take a walk around my block in the middle of the day, and every person that you come in contact with, give them a hug. If you walk on the 0.7 mile stretch of my street, I'll guarantee you'll get coronavirus. Just do it once, and you'll get it. And I said that to any of those people. And the funny part about it, what Torrey Hunter's response to exactly what you're saying is, yes, that would impact some, but it only takes one. And you have 750 players, let's say times 100 by each team. So that's 3,700 people. If you're going to take 3,700 people, you're going to get people like those schmucks in Denver or those idiots in Jacksonville. You're going to get those guys in the group. A baseball clubhouse, and I learned this very young, the baseball clubhouse is like a high school cafeteria. You have your introverts, you have your smart guys, you have your dummies, you have your jocks, and everybody's an athlete, but some of the guys are just jock mentality. That's what a baseball clubhouse is. And there will be guys who don't respect it. And all you need is one. That's all. Rudy Gobert didn't do anything bad to get coronavirus. We don't know. He wasn't soliciting in trying to get to have fun to get coronavirus. Ryan Ruocco thinks he's a carrier because his partner was Doris Burke, but he didn't tell Doris Burke that he was just on the Brooklyn Nets plane because he didn't know that 4 guys on the Brooklyn Nets had tested positive. He didn't know. And is Ryan Ruocco a carouser? Nope. He's one of the nicest, homeliest guys you'll ever know. And so that's the thing. So you say, would players en masse say, in this day and age, I want to play it safe? Yes. Most of them would. It just takes one.
Well, and that's why we brought it up. We think now the interesting aspect of this is going to be from the players. I mean, at some point, the owners are going to go to the players and say, here are the drop dead dates, guys. We need to make a decision here sooner rather than later. We're not there yet. We're going to be there within a month, though. And Torrey
Hunter signed $100 million. Torrey Hunter made $100 million during his career, and he said flat out, he said, number one, every player should agree to a salary reduction. He said, but the owners have slush funds, and he knows it, so the owners should not go the whole year without pay them at all. he was adamant about that. And he said, he's like, because they prepare for this crap just like we prepare for this crap.
All right,
And
very
he's right.
quickly, tell us about your crap. Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice.
So the conversation with Tori and Jock was so good, I changed my mind. I had Jay Mariotti from Monday talking about the Jordan documentary, and we're gonna revisit that in a couple of weeks because I don't like doing documentaries when they're in the middle. I like to wait till they're over. So we'll do that with Jay Mariotti in a couple of weeks. And I put the Torrey Hunter, Jock Jones conversation. It was so enlightening. We talked about the home run, the launch angle of nonsense. Boy, were they adamant about that. We talked about the Astros cheating scandal, all of it. And the audio's all been processed. And so thanks to the folks at Twitch, it'll be on Sports with Friends this afternoon. Oh, and Hall of Justice is recapping Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you, with a guy who did a 24-hour live stream. And he works for Kevin Smith, so there's still that connection. And we're going to review the Clone Wars, which just came to a conclusion.
How about that dichotomy right there? That's why he's on the show. He's Seth Everett. Follow him on Twitter at Seth_Everett. Seth, stay safe. All the best to the family.
You guys are great. I'll talk to you soon.
Seth Everett, kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. Mark with the good, the better, and the best as we wrap up this Hump Day edition. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
By the way, it was Brett Stevens that was on the show. I had the wrong name completely. He's a New York Times columnist and an MSNBC guy who thinks that we're doing this wrong, and he lives in New York City. It was fascinating listening to him last night.
And he was on Bill Maher, you said?
He was on Bill Maher on Friday. I watched it yesterday.
Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and Fox Sports.
And he's not necessarily he just he just brought a different perspective. It was but it was fascinating because he's in New York City bringing that. Not like you and I doing it from Florida.
If it's not in focus.
Mrs. Buck loves photography. The glasses were getting in her way.
Even though photography is just a hobby, it's something I really care about, and it's good to know that Dr. Liss cared about me just as much.
We really don't want bad vision to keep people from doing the things they love.
Community Eye Center really does have the most caring doctors in sight.
Hi, this is Dr. Scheibel from Community Eye Center. My partner, Dr. Spatafora, and I want to remind everybody, don't be a spreader. The coronavirus is so tiny, 100 million particles fit on the head of a pin. As we run around in our trucks and cars and play golf and go fishing and go to work and do the things we like to do, we are spreading the virus. The virus can only move with us. Over 65, diabetes, COPD, all these folks will be hurt severely by this virus. Wash your hands, be careful, don't be a spreader.
Don't be a spreader.
Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
It's like
Galliana
a spitter.
and
Don't be a spitter.
Maserati of Fort Myers are taking every precaution to keep you and your family safe.
I'm going to leave what my comment is right now, all of you on Twitch, of what the follow-up to that was. Because
Not a spinner, okay, but a spitter.
Yeah, versus a swallower?
Yes, a new Kia for $0 down.
Thank you, and hello again, everybody.
I mean, really? You're going to let my sophomoric humor just come out like that easily? Can't just throw them up there like that, for Christ's sake. Yeah, leave me now after I go to that. That's just like Moulton basically just gave out the text number. Did anybody else catch that? He opens me up for saying something dirty and then just leaves the room. Unbelievable.
239-481-2600, GallianaCars.com.
Probably should figure out what these stories are, though, since I got about 30 seconds.
Plus first month tax, tag title, doc, and dealer fee. 0 security deposit with lender approval.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor. The Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Heat pumps take heat out of the air and put it in your pool. They cost less to run than gas heaters, and you won't have panels on your roof. Special pricing, rebates, and free on-site evaluations. We're a family company. And for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
Listen to Miller and Moulton at home on your Amazon Alexa. Just say, Alexa.
Receiving. Over.
Play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn. We are Fox Sports. No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99.
Do we think Twitch has caused the...
No, I think my internet.
Glitches?
My internet.
But, so that's interesting, though, because you stayed on, though.
Right, but I'm hardwired with the station. My Wi-Fi, Twitch, and all this crap, you can't hardwire a lot of this stuff. For whatever reason, Ring Central's a cloud-based thing, so I cannot hardwire through Ring Central. I have to hook up through Ring Central on Wi-Fi. Don't ask me why. I don't get it. I don't understand. But
and obviously, I don't understand anything. But the reason that I brought it up is because remember last time when it happened, you went away. Okay,
right. My whole internet went out last time.
Right.
Last time my internet went down. I mean, I went off the station, which is hardwired.
Right.
Today was a Wi-Fi glitch. Can't explain it. Don't know why. Other than that Comcast sucks balls.
Call us at 239-283-2013. Again, time is running out. Call us at 239-283-2013.
God, I hate
Brothers
them.
Roofing specializes in the claims process. We have experts standing by.
You know, my wife had an interesting conversation. She goes, you know, us women, you guys always talk about you got to have balls. You got to do. She goes, we never say we got to have vagina.
Right. We don't ever say we have to have.
You know things are really bad when Waffle House is closed and Mark Miller has a positive attitude.
Let's pump the brakes there.
With that being said, here's our brand new bright and shiny segment. Mark Miller's the good, the better, and the best. Man, I hope we get back to normal fast. This is weird.
You're live.
For the good, we go to Delaware, where a woman in Delaware wanted to make sure no one in her community goes hungry, so she tried to find a way to help those in need during the coronavirus. Louise Ellison was concerned for homeless and families struggling to get food, so she organized a team of 120 volunteers from her church and her neighborhood to get to work, study the CDC guidelines and food handling articles, and she called up PB&J Pop-Up. They made 10,000 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to give away to people who need food. Good for her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
For the better, I can't believe I'm going there. I'm going to Nike. Last fall, Nike released the Air Zoom Pulse. It was their, and I quote, first shoe designed for the healthcare athlete, an everyday hero. Well, of course, those shoes cost money for those heroes.
No.
But now they are giving away 30,000 pair to healthcare workers across the country. They partnered with Good 360, a nonprofit that specializes in efficient distribution of product donations. They will get them to hospitals and health systems in Chicago, LA, Memphis, and New York City, as well as the VA. Finally, the best, we go to California, where an anonymous Santa Rosa landlord, well, first off, as a landlord, I don't know how they're getting a stimulus check, but that's for another discussion. But they took their $2,400, they matched it with their own $2,400, and gave it to all of their tenants so that they could help them pay their rent. That is doing the right thing. I doubt you needed it, and I'm guessing you're cooking the books to get that stimulus check, but at least you did the right thing with it. And that, David, is the good, the better, and the best on today, May the 6th. This is 2020.
Yes, it is. And it's nice to also hear those stories because we heard many of them in early April about landlords saying, hey, you don't have to worry about April rent. Well, in a lot of places, it's not like May, June, and July is not going to be a problem either. So it's nice to see and hear of more stories like that.
Because we're going to need them.
Yes.
And we're going to keep needing them. And when things get more open, we're going to still need to be doing things for folks. Because the thing that's freaked me out through all of this is that anybody who's listened to me for years on the air knows that I'm not a big fan of chains. No problem with franchises. chains not the same thing. I'm a mom and pop restaurant guy, and I am worried sick over all of the mom and pop shops in Southwest Florida. Go out, buy some takeout. If you're willing to go to a restaurant, choose someone that's locally owned. I'm not saying non-chains, because franchises are locally owned as well. But if you have the means, put your mask on, get out and buy something.
Miller and Moulton. It was 8 weeks ago tonight that Rudy Gobert tested positive. 8 weeks. Remember, football season's not supposed to start for 8 weeks times 2. That's how much time we are going to have on our hands, and still waiting to hear about baseball, basketball, and hockey. I'd like to thank Don McNeil and Seth Everett for joining us on the show today. Don't forget to vote in our poll question. Controversial one. Who knew? Who should be the 4th member of the Florida Mount Rushmore of coaching? Thanks for listening. Miller and Moulton.
Hey, Aaron Walker here. Super excited to announce the grand opening of the all-new giant used car outlet.
I just have one question. Mark, can I do Twitch on my end? Or does it have to go through you?